You've probably noticed that I haven't done any videos regarding Trump. The first reason is that it's hard to get too worked up about any of this, mainly because none of this has been a surprise, not even the fact that it's Donald Trump. It was obvious this clown was bucking for a presidential bid back during that tired birthers stunt he pulled years ago. The second reason is that, frankly, I see nothing but upside in Trump becoming president. You heard me right. Not because he's going to do anything for black people, but rather because it will make my job of promoting black empowerment far easier. See, black people used to argue with us on every little thing, especially when we said that there was a program at work here, one geared towards instituting a second black genocide by degrees. Jason gave you the outline for this years ago, but it fell on deaf ears. First, they speak against you, and do it continually, so there's a steady drumbeat of anti-black rhetoric. The media then defends this kind of talk, claiming that it's just the truth. In other words, they say the bad guys have a point. This creates a permissive social environment where the white supremacists of all colors feel that they can kill you with impunity. After that, the politicians begin to write laws targeting you, making it official. A lot of black people, firmly in denial, used to argue with us, but since Trump's come on the scene, these idiotic voices of delusion have been stopped. You can argue with reality, but you can't really argue with an elbow shot to the face. Yep, seems some black people can't figure out the pig simple facts until it literally hits them in the face. Well, I am not about to welcome in these slow-witted morons. If you're so dense that you will hide your head in the sand until some white bigot stands in front of you and screams he wants to kill you, then you're too stupid to stand with me. I also make this video as an advisory to black people. Trump is making his political bones off criticizing Mexicans and Muslims. Well, I don't see any good guys to cheer for here. These are the same people who attack and oppress black people in their own lands, who have gladly attacked black people here in the U.S., even though all we've ever done is to support and benefit them. They have happily collaborated with white supremacy in running black people into the ground, daily. And now that the rabid dog who they fed, praised, and sicked on black people countless times has finally turned on them, now they want sympathy. Well, as I've always said, there's no honor among thieves. Our neutrality will teach these groups a lesson, and the lesson the Asian, Hispanics, and Muslims are going to learn is that you can't decide that white supremacy is fine so long as it's only attacking black people. Speaking of which, black people have no place whatsoever participating in protests against Trump, at least not under these circumstances. This is not our fight, which means we shouldn't be in it. Now, does his candidacy bode well for black people? Of course not, but it's no worse than Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama. Yes, Trump's a racist bastard. So what? There's nothing new about it. Whatever your would-be nightmare scenario of a Trump White House is, all of those things are already happening to us right now and have been for 20 years. So what are you getting scared of Trump for? It's the Hispanics, Muslims, and Asians who have been getting a pass from white supremacy all these years, not us. They're the ones who stand to lose everything. As always, we have nothing left to lose. The people trying to get blacks to fight Trump are using black people as their crash dummies, as usual. Or haven't you noticed it's pretty much only black people who are getting spat on, pushed around, and beaten at these rallies? If the Mexicans don't like Trump, let them finally do something that they've been too scared to do for 400 years. Stand up to white people. In Latin America, the whites own everything, and the mestizos, who are at least 85% of the population in any given Latin country, own nothing. You would think they'd hate the white ruling class, but they don't. Because the delusion that they could be considered even partly white is so great for them that they'll gladly endure any amount of humiliation and abuse from whites, even to the point that they've been driven out of the countries of their birth. They bleach their skin, bleach their hair, deny their own families, and if a white rapist gets them pregnant, they'll actually be grateful for it. And not once will they ever point out that the problem is racial. They continue to repeat the lie that their problem is one of class, not race, because some horny Spaniards raped their Indian great-great-great-great-grandmothers hundreds of years ago, then walked away from the bastard mestizo children that they sired. Mestizos desperately want to be white and wish to imitate them in any way they can, but being socially, politically, and economically segregated from the white rulers of their lands, they can't really participate in any of the activities of the white ruling race. Hard to imitate white people with fancy clothes, homes, and belongings when you live in a tin-roof shanty and can barely afford a pair of shoes. So not having the wealth or power of their white Spanish-speaking oppressors, the mestizos instead decide to imitate the white ruling class's racial bigotry, both toward themselves and especially toward blacks and indigenous Indians, since they're the ethnic groups they actually are able to come into contact with. This is the mentality, the racial baggage that mestizos brought to the U.S. with them when they came here, and no amount of excuse-making either by them or by black people desperately hoping to gain sexual access to some Latin drawers can cover that up. And when they get to the U.S., the whites here abuse them too, and they take it with a smile. And why not? They've been doing it for centuries now. Trump got 46% of the Hispanic vote when he won Nevada. Only California and Arizona have larger Mexican populations, so we know who was voting for him. A lot of black people were surprised by this, and that only proves how dumb those individuals are, because Jason and I have been telling you for years this would be the case. Non-black groups simply are not motivated in the same way we are, and damn sure aren't motivated for the same reasons. Hispanics look at themselves as part of European culture. We are the only ones on the planet who want to destroy white supremacy. The other non-black groups are merely looking to negotiate a better place for themselves within white supremacy. What part of that are you not understanding? Black people seem to think that because we have a problem with white rule, that everyone else does too, and that's simply not the case. Because Trump's constant downing of Hispanics is precisely what the white politicians and businessmen who rule Latin America have been saying to mestizos down there for centuries. They have already been mass deported out of Latin America. They aren't really that surprised, or offended for that matter, to be mass deported right back. Because when push came to shove, the mestizos fled from less than 2% of the population. Now how do you let a comparative handful of jackalopes sit there and make you run for your life? That's what they've always done historically, though, and that's what Jason and I knew that so many other black people simply don't. They identify with their white oppressors more than they identify with themselves. Black dead-enders still clinging to the rotted corpse of the Black-Brown Alliance are in for quite a shock come Election Day. The Hispanics are already trying to position themselves to cozy up to the would-be President Trump, just in case he actually does make it to the White House. They're hoping that if they can just convince him that they're loyal wannabe Blancos, then he'll go after the other Hispanics instead. Of course, this won't work. It didn't work in Latin America, and it won't work here. The most Trump wants from Hispanics is that they be his maids. Sometimes. He doesn't even consider a Hispanic woman to be suitable even as a sexual plaything. That shows you just how far beneath contempt Hispanics are to Donald Trump. And yet they are warming to the idea of him as president. Black people have no idea of the swamp of self-hate and anti-black hate that they're jumping into when they call themselves protesting at these Trump rallies. Because the only thing the white media or the political opponents of Trump do is talk about Mexicans and immigration and occasionally Muslims. Nobody says a word about Trump's long-standing anti-black racist rhetoric. No matter how many black people get themselves beaten up protesting Trump, the white media and your would-be non-black fellow travelers are not about to make this about Trump's racism against black people. So what the hell are you doing? These guys are allowing themselves to be used, and there's no excuse for it. If you want to dump on Trump, I'm all for it, but only in the context of how it relates to black people. Politics is about power, not sentimentality. You only draw alliances when it suits your interests, and only when you have the ability to punish those who break the alliance. Black people are on our knees, in no small part due to Hispanic collaboration with white supremacy. And you can't make alliances on your knees. The Hispanics' fear of mass deportation hasn't made them one iota sympathetic with black people here, or even Haitians being illegally mass deported from the Dominican Republic. Quite the opposite. They've taken the side of the aggressors against us time and again. So let's exercise some astute hindsight and some shrewd foresight. As intelligent black society, we are not supposed to be getting involved in third-party disputes. Nothing Trump has said warrants us to stick our necks out for Mexicans or Muslims or anybody else for that matter, because they damn sure haven't been sticking their necks out for us. We've made this mistake far too many times in the past to still be doing it now. When you side with white supremacy, all you've done is to set yourself up to be its next victim. They've made their beds. Now let them live in it.